Hi, welcome. We are going to sing a three-part canon today called In Every Nation, and it's a setting of Acts chapter 10, verses 34 through 35. This canon is particularly written for the Epiphany season, so with Christ being revealed to the Gentiles in the three magi, and this is Peter kind of having a great realization that truly Christ is for the Gentiles, and he shows no partiality. So I'm here with my friend Jonathan, and we're going to sing it for you once in unison, two more times in a three-part canon, and then after that we'll try to learn it. This is a bit of a tricky one, so buckle up and do your best and just have fun with it. It's what it sounds like. Ready? So Peter opened his mouth and said, "Truly I understand that God shows no partiality, but in every nation anyone who fears him and does what is right, fears him and does what is right, is acceptable to him."
So Peter opened his mouth and said, "Truly I understand that God shows no partiality."
So Peter opened his mouth and said, "Truly I understand that God shows no partiality, but in every nation anyone who fears him and does what is right, fears him and does what is right,
"Truly I
is
understand
acceptable
that
to
God shows no
him."
partiality.
So Peter opened his mouth and said, "Truly I understand that God shows no partiality, but in every nation anyone who fears him and does what is right, fears him and does what is right, is acceptable to him. And that's what it sounds like. So I'll teach you each of the three phrases, and I'm going to break them up into small bits. If you've sung some of these before, some of them are really nicely 4-bar phrases that come in really naturally. This one has a whole lot of overlapping, and the timing it makes a lot of sense when you put it all together, but when you isolate it into smaller chunks, it can be a little confusing. So just bear with me, and we'll try to put it together as is natural. So first phrase, first chunk sounds like this. So Peter opened his mouth and said, "Truly I understand."
So Peter opened his mouth and said, "Truly I understand."
Second little chunk. That God shows no partiality.
That God shows no partiality.
Okay, and that T is the downbeat right there. So the first phrase would be partiality, partial, so Peter. Okay, so let's do the whole first phrase. Ready? Here we go. So Peter opened his mouth and said, "Truly I understand that God shows no partiality."
So Peter opened his mouth and said, "Truly I understand that God shows no partiality."
Good. Now I'm going to say just partiality, and let's just start on, it's kind of strange to break it up in a word, but I think it will help to just sing T as the beginning of the second phrase. So I'm going to sing T, but in every nation anyone.
T, but in every nation anyone.
Okay, going on from there. Anyone who fears him and does what is right. Anyone who fears him and does what is right. Okay, so obviously the timing is a little confusing, and we're not clear on where to start and finish. But if we put the whole phrase together, let's sing partiality going into the second phrase. So I'll start, you repeat. Partiality, but in every nation anyone who fears him and does what is right.
Partiality, but in every nation anyone who fears him and does what is right.
Great. Okay, and that brings us through two phrases. We're going to go back and repeat both of those phrases before we move on. But do your best. Try to follow along. I will say, by the way, in the descriptions to all these videos, there's a little note that says, if you'd like sheet music of this, just email me at nate@thesingingfamily.com. Please feel free to do that, because I know some of you amazing ear warriors will catch this right away. I, for one, would have a lot of difficulty singing this without looking at it first. So feel free to email us if you'd like the sheet music. I'm happy to share it. So, okay, right from the beginning, phrases 1 and 2. We'll sing it all together. Here we go.
So Peter opened his mouth and said, "Truly I understand that God shows no partiality, but in every nation anyone who fears him and does what is right."
Okay, going on from there, right. We're going to sing fears him again, so we'll start on right. Sounds like this. Right. Fears him and does what is right is. Just do that much. Ready?
Right, fears him and does what is right.
Is. Okay, going on from is, we'll start on is again. Is acceptable to him.
Is acceptable to him.
Okay, now we're going to start at the beginning of the third phrase, which starts on right. Coming out of the second phrase, does what is right. Right. Yeah, starting right there on right. Here we go. Right. Fears him and does what is right. Is acceptable to him.
Right. Fears him and does what is right. Is acceptable to him.
Good. Okay, so that's the whole thing. We're going to put that together. We'll sing it 2 times in a row in unison. And again, as always, I make this comment in most of the videos, but particularly here, go back and isolate those phrases as many times as you need to. I would expect that most people wouldn't be ready to go on and jump right into singing the whole thing. But nonetheless, jump right in we shall. So here we go. Ready?
So Peter opened his mouth and said, "Truly I understand that God shows no partiality, but in every nation anyone who fears him and does what is right, fears him and does what is right, is acceptable to him." So Peter opened his mouth and said, "Truly I understand that God shows no partiality, but in every nation anyone who fears him and does what is right, fears him and does what is right, is acceptable to him."
Great. Okay. Now we're going to go 2 more times through, just 2 times through in a canon form. And again, this is a 3-part canon, so your whole group could sing with Jonathan, who will start. You could all sing with me. You could even add a 3rd part after I come in when I get to the 2nd phrase. And by the way, this will sound way more cool and exciting in 3-part. So we can only sing one at a time, sadly, the 2 of us. So yeah, go ahead and try and sing with us as best you can.
So Peter opened his mouth and said, "Truly I understand that God shows no partiality."
So Peter opened his mouth and said, "Truly I understand that God shows no partiality,
fears him and does what is right,
is
acceptable to
fears him and does what is right, fears him and does what is right,
"Truly I understand
acceptable
that God
to
shows no
him.
partiality.
So Peter opened his mouth and said, truly I understand that God shows no partiality. But in every nation, anyone who fears him and does what is right, fears him and does what is right, is acceptable
that God
to
shows no partiality.
him. So Peter opened his mouth and said, truly I understand that God shows no partiality. But in every nation, anyone who fears him and does what is right, fears him and does what is right, is acceptable to him. And that's what it sounds like. So I said we were going to sing it twice. Jonathan came in a third time. I'm going to take it as a compliment. He literally was unable to stop because of
Couldn't help myself.
It was so fun. So, all right. Well, thanks for singing with us. I hope that was fun. I hope this edifies your Epiphany season, and I hope you'll sing with us again sometime. Thanks.